Welcome to Downshift. My name is Matt, and I have spent the week with something that I've wanted to buy ever since they took the wraps off of this thing. This is actually the second generation of the Rivian R1S. This is their flagship SUV, incredibly fast, incredibly capable off-road, and I've tested all of that this week. So here are the 18 things that you need to know about the new second generation Rivian R1S. We're going to start with what's new for this year, 2025. Now, this is the second generation R1S, I promise. It's removed about 1.6 miles of wiring due to a new zonal architecture. It saves about 40 pounds of copper. And they've gone from 17 ECUs down to 7, which means it's got lower latency, it's got better processing speed, and it's just going to all around be better. It's not one of those things that's going to slap you in the face like a new headlight or taillight design, but it's something that you will interact with and appreciate on a maybe subconscious level every single moment. But what about the competitors? Are there any other big 3-row, fully electric, off-road oriented SUVs? Not really. I mean, the truth is not totally. I mean, there's a Model X from Tesla, that's 3 rows, but it's not off-roady in any way. Then there's the Hummer EV that we had to go in last year, that's 2 rows and off-roady, but not 3 rows. And then there's the Kia EV9, which is fully electric and 3 rows, but doesn't have the off-roading pretensions that this R1S does. So this doesn't really have a true competitor in the wild. And now we're going to talk about power. Now we have equipped here the most powerful R1S that you can get, at least at the time of this filming. This is the tri-motor setup. It's $16,000 and you get one motor up front with an open diff. It kind of works on a brake torque vectoring system, but you get 2 motors in the rear for true torque vectoring. It's a huge help with small inputs off-road, which we'll see at the end of the video. Here in the tri-motor, it makes 850 horsepower and 1,100 pound-feet of torque, and that's good for 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds. But this second generation truck has a dynamic disconnect to reduce parasitic loss, which makes it more efficient since it's not sending power to the rear wheels as necessary. In conserve mode, which would be your eco mode, and at light throttle or even medium throttle, it's just sending power to the front motor, so it's just front wheel drive, and then the rear wheels and the rear motors kick in when it needs to, for more power or for more traction. Now, I say we have the most powerful version here at the time of this filming because there's a quad motor version that's going to be coming later with 1,000 horsepower. So 150 more horsepower and 1,200 pound-feet of torque. And that's going to take the 0 to 60 from 2.9 seconds that we have it here and turn it into 2.5 seconds, which is just unbelievable. There's also a dual motor available for your R1S, but you're not going to get a single motor as all R1Ss and R1Ts are all-wheel drive. But let's talk about some EV or battery stuff real quick. Now we have equipped the Max Pack, which is their biggest battery pack. It's $14,000 and 140 kilowatt hours of usable power. It does about 420 miles of range, at least as claimed, and it charges on a level 2 in about 15 hours. There's a smaller battery that's ironically called the large battery. It does about 320 miles of max range, and a standard battery that does about 270 miles of max range. But our tri-motor here with the Max Pack and the 22-inch wheels is good for 76 MPGe, which is a number that no one really knows, but we did our lakeshore loop efficiency test and came back with 2.5 miles per kilowatt hour, which equates to about 350 miles of range. And that is, again, in the high to mid-teens in terms of weather, so definitely not a friend for the EVs. And then we even took it a step further and did a highway torture test, which was about 50 miles, locked in at 75 miles an hour into a slight headwind on the highway, and that came back with 1.81 miles per kilowatt hour, which translates to 253 miles just about from the battery pack, from the Max Pack. Now that's a far cry from the 420 miles that they claim, but you are not going to find worse conditions than teens, low to mid-teens, and 75 miles an hour on the highway into a headwind, unless you're going to tow. That's the only way that you would get worse fuel economy. So, at the very least, you're going to get about 260 miles out of this battery if you drive it in the absolute worst conditions. And if you weren't getting enough range to get where you need to go, this now is compatible with Tesla chargers as long as you have the adapter. So if you do need to charge on your route, it's going to be a lot less stressful than it might otherwise be. And then when it comes to weight and dynamics, this R1S with the Max Pack is about 7,000 pounds. That's a pretty good amount, but it's also a whole ton 2,000 pounds lighter than the Hummer EV that we tested last year. Now this R1S is on air suspension. You've got an adaptive damper and an air spring. And the second generation, they've kind of retuned the suspension quite a bit. It's softer and more dailyable, although in the lower drive settings, in your standard mode, it rides pretty well. In low and lowest, it gets a little bit busy. But you've got kinetic ride control, and a lot of the off-road stuff that they've built in here helps the car drive and balance the chassis really well on the road and would actually be pretty good on the track. Maybe not in 15-degree weather, but generally speaking, would probably do pretty well on the track. Overall, it drives really well for its size and weight. The ride quality is pretty good, and it hides its weight pretty well behind the wheel. It's got a nice sharp front end, lots of control and grip from the front tires, even in these terrible ambient conditions here with this cold. And it's really great. The only thing that annoys me from behind the wheel is that I can't turn regen off. But other than that, it drives really well. And then when it comes to styling, this is where you'd be wondering and scratching your head, is this the second gen? And it is, but you have to know where to look. It starts with the new revised digital matrix LED headlights. Now, these are not approved by the government yet, but the hardware is here, so they can do an over-the-air update once that's approved, and then you've got, boom, digital matrix LEDs. I don't know why the US is so behind on headlight technology, but whatever. This has got it built in, so whenever that goes, it's ready to go. But the big giveaway here for a Gen 2 is your turn signal is divorced from your LED runner. Obviously, this is your projectors here, but another thing that they've done is they've built in little LED diode indicators. There's 10 of these from there to there, and so this, when you plug the car in, is going to indicate just how much charge the battery has. So you can see without needing to go into the car if you've got 50% or 70% or whatever it is. Still pretty nice. Now, one of the things I am going to complain about with this R1S is that the colors are really expensive. A lot of the colors are really cool. This Rivian blue is about $2,500, but that silver color is the only included color. If you want black, one of the most common colors on the road, it's $3 grand. Now, personally, I do like this Rivian blue. I like the yellow, but they don't do the yellow anymore. And I guess the other color that I would like is that kind of like darker forest green. I think that green looks really good with the yellow accents on the hood. And then coming around to the side, we've got the 22-inch kind of more street-oriented tires and wheels with some kind of wheel arch cladding. A little bit of aero working back here. Now on the Monroney, on the vehicle sticker, it said that we were gonna have the aero wheels, which are like the flat monoblock discs. Look really cool. I like them better than this, but I guess these wheels are kind of nice. You get to see the yellow brakes peek out. Sorry that everything's covered in salt, but that's the reality of Wisconsin in this week. But you've got Rivian with some of the black and yellow detailing, the pop-out door handles, your black floating A-pillar and floating roof, and we've got the dark out package, which takes this band, which would otherwise be chrome, and kind of darkens it out. You've also got some yellow accented roof rail hooks up there, and our C-pillar detail with the Rivian logo is the only other body colored thing above the belt line. But very geometric, very classic SUV shape, which you don't usually see from EVs, so I think it looks pretty good. It definitely has a more geometric, old school off-roader kind of boxy feel to it, and we've got our big, bold Rivian font with our full-width LED tail bar R1S back here. But overall, I think it looks cool. Distinctive, some people have different feelings, but it's polarizing to some. Overall, I think it looks kind of good. What color would you have your R1S in? And we will check out the trunk. One of my favorite things about this is this and the X5 and the Range Rovers have a split folding gate. The weird thing with this one is it's manual, whereas the X5 and the Range Rover, this is powered. But it does kind of work. It's easier, snaps in real easily, but obviously you can sit here. Now this has 3 rows. With the third row up, you're looking at about 18 cubic feet of space. Now compare this to a gas equivalent or gas rival, maybe like a Lexus GX. Also can be had with third row, and that thing with the third row up has very little. So 18 cubic feet of space here with the third row up is actually pretty impressive. You've also got some additional storage under the floor here, and we can electronically drop the second row. But before we do that, we're looking at about almost 50 cubic feet of space with the third row down. If we do want to drop the second row, we're looking at about 88 cubic feet of space, almost 90 cubic feet of space. So the trunk itself, great size. This is a bit of a bummer that it's not totally flat, especially if people are going to be overlanding in this thing, sleeping in the back. You probably want a flat floor, but this is probably where you're going to have your feet, so maybe not a huge deal. Overall, though, I would say the trunk, pretty impressive, very practical. But it doesn't stop there because you have a frunk, which you can control from in here, which is nice. And the frunk itself is 11 cubic feet, which, yes, is bigger than the Tesla Model X's frunk, and also the storage that you get in the back of this thing, the normal trunk, also bigger than the Tesla. You've got Rivian logos all over the place, chargers, first aid kits, all the good stuff, emergency release. So overall, yeah, cargo capacity, really good. And when it comes to towing, R1Ss top out at 7,000 pounds, so they can tow themselves. If you want more towing capacity out of a Rivian, you can go for the truck, which will boost your towing capacity to 11,000 pounds, and that's pretty dang good. Not sure how far it'll tow it, but it will tow it. And then we'll check out the third row, because yes, it has a third row. You press this button here, and it whirs itself out of the way in a pretty typical or normal fashion. You do have 2 seats back here, so it's not a full 3 seat across. But look at these seats. The detailing, all the little Easter egging, stitching, all really, really nice, continues even into the third row. You even do have a sunroof back here for your third row. I'll hop in. I am 6'1" for reference. This seat is not moved all the way back. It's moved up about an inch, inch and a half. But I'll show you what that looks like. Now again, I'm 6'1". And yeah, I mean, I've got some foot space under here, actually a surprising amount of foot space. I can't get my heels back that far, but I even have about an inch. So if this was all the way back, it would be pressing up against my knee probably, but you could, in a pinch, get adults back here. Got a nice suede headliner back here. Again, nice sunroof, but you do have some vents back here, cup holder. I thought you had a charger, but I could have been wrong about that. Oh, the other thing that you have in your third row, heated seats. You do have to control it from that up there though. But overall, not a terrible third row. And then we'll check out the rear seats. But first, the door card. No shade, a little odd, but it's really fine. Really, really nice, genuine open pore wood. I'm really, really impressed with the overall build quality, the materials on this truck here. Really, really solid electric door handle release, really nice pockets. So even if you have a big fat water bottle, you can put it down here because this expands. Really nice speakers. This is their Dolby Atmos, pretty good. We've got Rivian in kind of like the darker kind of chrome bronze. Really, really nice. But again, I'm just gonna geek out over all of the really nice materials back here. I do love the kind of flannel floor liners that you get here. Back of the seat wrapped in cloth with some metallic detailing, more wood detailing, a hook here, a charger here so you can hang like an iPad, charge it, plug it in, bring your own entertainment system. Look at this, really, really nice, ornate attention to detail. I am blown away by the attention to detail in this truck. Again, really, really nice seats. A lot of the detailing continues here. We'll step in, finally. I should also mention, this has the Sound and Vision package, I think it's called, which gives you this huge electro frosting sunroof. Really, really cool. I'm gonna step in. The seats themselves are all the way back, so I've got a couple inches of knee room in front of me, and I even have headroom space with the Sound and Vision big pano roof. But again, I've got controls here to heat my seats in the second row and even heat the third row. You can go in and control it more individually as well, which is just super, super cool. I've got a compass back here. I've got control of the media back here. I can lock the doors. I've got control for the outlets if I want them to turn off or not power after a while. I can do that. I can set up a hotspot for internet back here, light control, Bluetooth control, more USBs, USB-Cs, vents. I mean, a really, really nice second row here. And then the front seats. Again, we've got memory seats up here. Really, really nice. Excellent leather, stitching, metallic work, detailing, really comfortable, 3-level heated, 3-level cooled, heated steering wheel. Doesn't have massage seat option. I'm not sure if I expect that. This R1S starts at about $75,000. This one is spec'd to about close to $110,000. I might start to expect it, but either way, the seats themselves really comfortable, and I still love all of the little details that you get throughout the interior. And as I keep fawning over the interior details, let's just talk about it, because I have truly been really swept away with the interior quality of materials. I mean, Rivian is not a legacy automaker by any means, and usually the startups, Tesla, have quality control issues, but I've not found a single like squeak or rattle in here. All of the materials here are really impressive. Think Audi and then a level higher. Here we do have the standard interior spec, which is the black mountain and brown ash interior. This is really impressive though. I'm a sucker for open pore wood and little Easter eggs, always adventurous, or adventurous forever. I'm also a sucker for these plaid mats that we have down here. Speakers, we've got the premium audio, which I believe is a Dolby Atmos system. It's pretty good. It works pretty well. It's not the most amazing speakers that I've ever heard, but it's pretty cool. The only thing that's annoying is visually this looks great, but there's no buttons. So there's a little frustrating like learning curve, but you know, now that I've been in this car for a few days, everything's starting to make sense. I have things set to where I want them, so they automatically get into the right positions and everything. So I've moved past some of that initial frustration. But you do have controls on your steering wheel here that control things like your mirrors and the tilt and telescope for the wheel. And to adjust your temperature vents, you have to go into the screen. So it's a little bit annoying for that stuff. It's also weird that there's no glove box, but you do have loads of storage in your door card, down in your center console, underneath the seats down here. But overall, you are left with a very visually appealing and very open and relaxing feeling cabin. And then as we dive deeper and talk more specifically about the technology, strange little omission, no head-up display, don't totally need it because I have this, which you don't have in something like a Tesla Model Y or 3 or things like that. But you do have a fully digital instrument cluster, and it gives you really all of the information that you would actually need. It's not overly cluttered, it doesn't make you feel like claustrophobic, it's got very nice graphics, it's nice and easy, it's got a relaxing feel to it that's kind of hard to put into words. But you also do, when you put your turn signal on, you get the Hyundai thing, where it shows you what's in your blind spot here on video, which is really kind of nice. Over here, you've got your huge center screen. We've talked about it, no Apple CarPlay, no Android Auto. That is kind of whack, but you go over to music and you do have things. Obviously you're going to need a Wi-Fi plan, so that's going to cost something, but you do have Spotify built in, you've got Apple Music built in, you've got Audible built in, and you can obviously Bluetooth your phone. So I would like to see an Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. That's what all the consumers have ever said that they want. I get why they don't do it, because you can use the onboard navigation system. It's much better for your predictive route planning. It's going to show you what % of charge you'll get at your destination. So that is nice. I get the thought, but I would just like to have it. Sometimes I don't need to know. Sometimes I'm just going, 10, 20 miles and I don't need to know. It's going to be fine. But overall, the graphics here, they're Unreal Engine. Again, some of the processing speeds and powers have been really improved. The latency is down for the second generation system. And this is an entirely new generation of software. This is fully over-the-air update capable. Your 360 cameras, really impressive. Some of the best in the game, just true in terms of resolution, not a lot of warping, just really nice cameras. Huge, they take up the full screen, really good. This, Mercedes and BMW do some of the best cameras, and I would say this might be even better than maybe BMW, so really impressive. But in terms of your driving technology, it's actually here on your shifter. If you pull the thing towards you once, it's going to engage your adaptive cruise. If you pull it towards you twice, you'll get your highway driving assist. That's going to be your auto steering thing. It doesn't it doesn't watch your eyeballs and like some of the other systems. I kind of like that, so it's not constantly telling me to like sit up like some of the Toyota systems do. It's just a good system. It works pretty well. I actually was truly pretty impressed with it, especially in this cold weather with salt on the roads. It's harder to see lines. It did pretty well. So overall, really impressed with the technology. I can go into detail, and we will go into some of those smaller details in a minute here. And we'll cover on some of the off-road stuff before we actually go off-road. But here you have air suspension. Obviously, we have the tri-motor system, and all of your underbody is all plated up. So you don't really have to worry about it. The whole underbody is kind of a skid plate. But here you've got 15 inches of max ground clearance. Really really, really good, but you can wade up to 3 feet of water in this thing. Again, the battery is sealed, the motors are fine, you can put this thing in water. We'll show you some off-road footage in a minute here. The first thing is you can't turn regen completely off, so you can never free coast. And when the car is cold, when you first turn it on, the regen is really aggressive. It smooths out as the car warms up, but even in low, it's a lot more regeneration, or it's not a lot more grabby and brakey than I would normally like. Now, personally, I'm not a one-pedal drive person. Some people like that, but I would like the option to turn this off and kind of free coast a little bit more. The other thing is the turn signal, and it does that thing where it returns to center, so you have to cancel it if you don't turn the steering wheel quite enough. I thought we got past this. And then there's the color options, and they look good, but they're expensive. The only free or included color is silver, and if you want black, which I would think would be another free color, it's $3,000. Now we've got the Rivian blue, which looks fantastic, but again, it's like $2,500, so it's expensive to have any color but silver. But we're back in the trunk for my next point. Now, obviously, we talked about the third row. You can drop the third row pretty easily, manually like that. It kind of latches into place. That's cool, fine, good. Now we've got a pretty big space for our trunk. Weird thing though, this is kind of like an overlanding, off-roading type vehicle, and usually you want to have a flat floor so you can sleep in here. Now obviously this is pretty far down. If you have your head up here and your feet down here, it's not going to be the biggest deal, but a little bit odd to not see a totally flat floor. The other thing that's a little bit more offensive to me is there's no way to get this third row seat up. This is how you drop the second row, but to get the third row back up, you have to come in. I'm climbing into the trunk now. And since it's latched in, I have to then pull this. So I have to get all the way up here, unlock it, and then get the third row back up. And that is a bit of a hassle. And the last little nitpick is that there's no glove box. And again, I'm not sure why EVs do this. They're reinventing everything. Now, it's not like you don't have storage. You've got really nice storage here. It even fits my enormous water bottle, which no other car does. So I do like this sort of pocket. You've also got pockets down here. You've got cup holders here. Another pocket here. Obviously this whole area is open, and you have electronic release for your center bin. But why not have a glove box? And some of the odds and ends back in the trunk here. We've got this little covered piece, and this is actually your air compressor, which is included in our tri-motor R1S here. Really, really cool, super useful if you want to go off-roading. Always air down, especially because these tires have been set and I've been operating at about mid 40 PSI. That's a lot, that's pretty full, so you might want to bring the air pressure down if you're going to go off-roading to avoid punctures. Another cool thing is you've got this Yeti guy. You've got an expanded menu if you swipe up here, and it's called Gear Guard. Now this works with the camera system on the car, so you can use this road cam as like a dash cam to record any incidents that happen to you on the road. You've also got different incidents that you can record, or it'll auto record if you've got things like hard braking events, or we were off-roading earlier, so let's see what we were doing earlier. And it also works with different angles. So this is our front camera view. This is where apparently we ran into, oh, I'm sure it's this rock. We ran into a big rock. So any like big jostling of the car, it's going to show up here. It records up to 2 minutes, and it records from all angles. Really, really cool, really nice feature. But you've also got a motion cam, which is kind of like a sentry mode. It'll keep an eye on your car, so if anyone breaks in, it'll keep that saved. And also, you can save things, so if you have somebody that does break into your car, you can save that clip and then show it to the police later on. This is a super nice and handy feature. But you also have camp mode, which basically turns down the high voltage battery, so there's no vampire drain going on, and you can still use some of the accessories. You've also got camp courtesy, which is going to bring down lights, bring down sounds, so it's just a little bit nicer for other people at your campsite. You can turn off your displays, and you can even level the car. So this is on air suspension, so if you're on like a 1 or 2 degree pitch, the air suspension will level the car out, so it's easier and more comfortable to sleep in the back. Really, really nice. And of course, you can manage your energy to a more infinite degree. Pet comfort, which again just kind of runs the climate control without sucking too much out of the battery. So if you want to leave your dog or whatever in the car while you go into the shop and it's 80 degrees out, it'll say that it's keeping the cabin at a nice, comfortable 70 or 71 or whatever, so people don't think that you're abusive to animals. And we have a very clean cabin here, but one of the things that you don't see is a cup holder, and that's because it's right here. Now it looks like it would be a little bit flimsy, but in actuality, it's pretty tough. This is pretty nice kind of metal materials, thick plastic. It's actually pretty sturdy. And last thing that we'll talk about before we go off-road is the price. Now an R1S with standard battery and dual motor starts at $78,000 or somewhere around the mid $70,000. If you go up to the tri-motor like we have here, you're looking at about $106,000, and I think we're testing about $109,000 with the blue paint. You can go for a more powerful and more finessed off-road experience with the quad motor, but that's not out yet and we don't have pricing for it just yet. So $110,000 just about testing here is a lot of money, but there's a lot of car to be had here. So let's send it off-road at Road America. First off-road experience in the Rivian, or in an EV at all, really. Go off-road. All terrain. Okay, we got pitch, roll, compass, elevation. Temperatures, good. Different modes. Drift. The drift mode is in the off-road mode. Rally, that would be cool. Soft sand, I'm gonna lower all the ride heights. We're gonna leave it in all terrain and just see how she does left to her own devices. I guess the closest thing might be kind of rock crawly around here. So we've been through this off-road course at Road America. Again, shout out to them for letting us use their off-road course to test these cars. We've been around this course dozens and dozens and dozens of times in a bunch of different cars, but never in a true full EV. And actually that's not true. We went through the Lightning. We went through this with the Lightning, but that was a very different experience. But the thing that immediately sticks out to you is, you know, we've been around here in Raptors and Wrangler 392s, and there's so much sound and just kind of drama and event to off-roading with those vehicles. But you get out here in an EV, like this Rivian, which, as we know, is wildly capable, but it does it in such a way that almost like just takes away from the experience. Like it would take something that's at a 10 level intensity and bring it down to like a 6, just because it handles everything so well. You've got infinite control, torque vectoring in the rear because you've got a motor on each wheel, plus you've got a motor at the front using some brake vectoring, sending power around. That it's just sorting all this stuff out for you. You don't have to worry about a locking diff. You don't have to worry about, you know, downhill assist control. You've got regen built, so you have all these finite little, you know, infinite level of controllability of the car. You know, if you got a wheel up, it's gonna sort that out for you. So it takes away a lot of the difficulty. So, I don't know, if you're into like off-roading as a sport or a hobby, maybe that's not really what you want. You want to have a challenge, but as far as an actual, you know, properly capable, if you want the most capable thing, this might be it. All right, so we're gonna do our first stress test here. So we're at a 15% pitch. I'm gonna go into the cameras so I can see what's ahead of me. I'm just gonna let off power. I don't know why it thinks there's a car there, but this is what I'm talking about. And these are not snow tires. These are not even real, like true off-road tires. I haven't even aired down, but even at a 15% pitch, I've got all the grip, all the torque immediately to get through that. No problem whatsoever. I'm just noticing now it says 20 miles an hour max for our speed in all-terrain mode. I'm assuming that would change, obviously, for something like a rally mode. Now this second hill we don't usually do because it's very steep and it comes down into a rock garden. But with our air suspension up, we've got oodles and oodles of ground clearance that I think maybe we give it a go. Brake over test. Can't really tell. That's the nice thing about the EV. Okay, so it's put itself into brake hold. So now I can hold this, which is a 17% downhill pitch, and I can just, it's almost putting itself in like downhill assist control, where I'm using the throttle to go, but then it's putting brake on. So it's almost like a low range with downhill assist. And I've got just so much control of the car. I can control the speed perfectly. I can work on my line. Really, really well done. Again, this thing is going to be wildly capable. It's going to do everything. You know, provided you have enough battery, it's going to do pretty much anything. Loads of ground clearance, crazy approach, departure, breakover. I think it can wade through like 3 feet of water. So it's gonna do it all. It's just, do you want some sound while you do it? Or do you want it to be harder? This is gonna take things and just kind of nerf it. It's just gonna be too easy in this thing. Even in this snow, even with these tires, even without airing down, at no point am I worried about really anything. And that last hill that we did with the breakover, and I'm sure we'll hit this one too. Okay, let's see. 16%, pretty good. Now, we probably will hit the center as we break over here. I think we might be rubbing a little bit, but the battery pack is plated. It's got skids all underneath. So it's really, and I've got brake control. I mean, I'm at a downhill 23% and my foot is off the brake. The radar is picking up the ground, so it thinks it's a car. But then I can just little push, and here we go down the hill. I mean, this is cool, dude. This is really, really cool. Really impressive what this truck is able to do. I'm trying to avoid some of these bigger rocks, because there are some big ones. Okay, okay. All right, I think we do the moguls next. But yeah, it's nothing to this thing. This is really cool. Really, really cool. Infinite torque control, excellent cameras, don't have to worry about a diff or multi-terrain select really. It's just sorting it all out for me. If you want to get into off-roading and you're a beginner and it's a little intimidating, this would be a great thing to have because it's going to do everything for you. Alrighty, alrighty. I'll make sure we're in our highest because we are going to go past this. Not a problem, not a problem. All right, moguls time. These look pretty tamped down. I don't know if these have been cared for in a while, but let's just see. Let's see how corked out we can get on this. Okay. We're trying. Oh! I don't know if you could feel that, but the car was sorting out where it was sending power. Jeez, I hope the tires are okay. It really fell off that thing. That's the problem with snow. This could be a lot more articulated if we had more grip and there wasn't snow. But there is, and that's the joy of filming in Wisconsin in the end of January. And doing all of this, of course, we've got our we haven't burned a single percentage of range doing any of this either. It's just really low. I mean, you can see it here. Really low throttle inputs, really fine torque adjustments and deployments. So it's actually really efficient out here. Not so much on the highway, but off-road? Sure, yeah. We got this ruddy bit. Yeah, I mean, it's just too easy. And now we're back at the first hill. So, really, really impressed with this thing. Wildly capable. It's gonna do everything for you, take care of everything. Really impressive, and it's not gonna burn a single percentage of range while it does it. That's pretty cool. The efficiency has gone down, but really impressive. Thanks to Road America, and thank you to Rivian for letting us have a go. This was really, really cool. Something I've been wanting to do for years.